What's up, guys? Brian Phobos here. So today we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about the economic changes with Steem. We're going to talk about some of the returns you can earn with the REX versus other alternatives. And we're going to talk about yearly inflation rates of some of these currencies. So for one, if you saw the thumbnail, well, crypto investors are getting what they wanted, essentially. You wanted lower prices. But it's funny on the psychology because a lot of times when the prices go down, then people kind of clench up and they don't want to purchase. Again, markets will usually give you 2, maybe 3 chances. I think that we're kind of in our third chance. I think we're going to have our last capitulation moves over the next month and a half. That's going to be a third chance to acquire some of these cryptos. And then I think that in 2020 and 2021, we're going to have a gradual increase and things are going to be doing a lot better. But there is going to be a lot of projects that are going to die. They're going to get delisted. Their liquidity is going to be too low. And again, that's going to lead to the delisting. And then essentially, a lot of the projects will fall off the map and they won't have the resources to continue on. But if you stay with kind of more blue chip alts and you stay with stuff like Bitcoin, then over a long enough time horizon, you're probably going to be pretty good. So let's talk about a few things and just take a look. Bitcoin right now, 9,500. And obviously, can we call it manipulation, these manipulation dumps? But, at the end of the day, people want to buy low, sell high. And if they think that they can, buy lower, pump the price up, and then take it back down, by selling and then buying at a lower price, well, that's what any of us were trying to do anyway. So can't really call it manipulation per se. It's just the way the world works, I guess. So let's talk about a few things. Now let me jump over to Steem and what happened with Steem. So there was Hard Fork 21, and then there were some issues with it. So they've actually rolled out Hard Fork 22 a day later. Now a couple things changed with the economics of Steem. So right now, and these are a couple things. So there's a proposal system now, basically a decentralized autonomous organization that has Steem-backed dollars pumping into it. 10% of the reward pool is actually going into this development fund. Now, in general, the inflation of Steem is at 8.59% here in 2019. And it goes down 0.01% every 250,000 blocks. So over time is deflationary, but there's not like the block halvings like we see with Bitcoin. It's a slower deflationary situation that's happening there, but 8.59%. Now we know EOS has essentially 1% if you don't count kind of the other 4% fund that's not being utilized. So essentially 1%. Then you've got currencies that are no inflation. You've got Nano and IOTA, for instance. But the interesting thing with them is that they are in a long tail as well. They're this long tail situation where volumes are lower and the price is kind of flatlined. So it's kind of this equilibrium point. IOTA is in a somewhat similar situation that is just kind of in this long tail move. And that's with no additional inflation. There's no additional supply coming into circulation. If you look at the max supply and you look at the circulating supply, it's the same. So it's interesting. Now, Steem, I think that's been one thing that's been an issue with it is that is high inflation compared to a lot of things. So Dogecoin has actually been a little bit of an anomaly, but it has about 4.5% inflation each year. And it has a large supply, and there's billions being released each year, but it's around 4.5%. Now, but it's held up well. If you look at all-time high prices, some of this stuff, and we can kind of discount this. Zcash started out like super high, and that's kind of an odd situation. Nano, lost 97% of its value. List 96%, Cardano 96%, Neo 95%, IOTA lost 95%, Dash 94%, Tron 93%. But you come on down the list and actually Doge 86% from the all-time highs. So it's actually coupled right in there with Monero, with Ethereum Classic and EOS as far as how much it's basically fallen since its all-time highs. It's actually been pretty resilient considering the fact that there is this large supply, and there's 4.5% versus no inflation or 1% inflation a year. So I think that's very interesting. I look at these things when I'm looking to invest in different cryptos. Now, let's talk about certain returns. Let's say if you put your money in it, how much of that inflation are you going to get from Steem? So they just recently updated the wallet to say, what the APR is. So Steem Power increases an APR of approximately 2.25%. So just by holding Steem Power, you're going to get a 2.25% return for holding Steem Power. Now, let's say for the Rex, there's a calculator for with EOS Authority here, and calculated on 10,000 EOS or whatever, what would you earn from the Rex in the last few months. It would have been 17.8 EOS, for instance. But you can look at the APR here being calculated the last 60 days, the APR, and that would be essentially extrapolated out for a full year, is 0.2%. So 0.2% versus 2.25% just to hold those, either Rexed it or powered it up in Steem. Now that's interesting, but you got this issue with Steem is that there's 8.6% inflation, essentially, reward system. The Steem token system is inflationary. New tokens are distributed every day. Inflation is 8.59% in 2019. Now, 10% of it is going to this proposal system, and that's one thing I want to talk about as well, is that the way the economics changed. So it used to be 75% to the content creators, and it was 25% for the content curators who were upvoting people's content. So you can earn from upvoting people's content. Now they've changed that to 45% for content creators, 45% for curators, but then 10% of the pool is also going to this decentralized autonomous organization where you can vote on different projects that would, let's say, help the Steem ecosystem from a development standpoint or a marketing standpoint or that. So I jumped in there right away and actually submitted something that I had previously been working on, and then I kind of waited for this DAO. So multiplayer 2D arcade game to win more Steem Galaxy. And I did a post on it and stuff like that, but basically I've already done, some marketing related work, and it's a very simple game. That's pretty loud. So anyway, basically it's this thing, and if you get to 10 kills, then essentially you would get the pot, and I kind of described the payout here and all that kind of stuff, and there's a referral program, and basically, a person could go in there, and let's say there's going to be games that would be like 2 Steem, and there'd be games that would be like 10 Steem. Everybody, let's say there's 4 players, and everybody submits 4 Steem or 10 Steem, there'd be like 40 coins that would be in the pot, and if you win, you would essentially get like 36 of the coins, and then other of it would go to like referral, and other of it would go to development and stuff like that. So I kind of described that here, so that makes more sense. Now, if you have a Steem account, it would help if you voted on the proposal, and the front end for the proposal system isn't up on Steemit.com. It's actually over on Steampeak.com. Steemit.com is going to roll it out later. It's already built. Blocktrade's built it. But you can go to Steampeak.com/proposals. And if you haven't used Steampeak just for general, if you ever never looked at this, it's actually a really good front end. I'll click on kind of the main page here in a second, but I've got my submission up there, and basically if you log into it, you can Steem connect to it, and then you can actually vote for proposals that are currently ongoing. Now, I'm not real clear, and I've kind of asked around, so this Steem DAO or whatever, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, is filling up with Steem dollars, but none of it have been paid out to any of the people that have put proposals in. I don't see any wallet action. So I don't know when those payouts are going to begin. So that'll be kind of interesting. Obviously, this is a new system, so it's all new to us. And but if you're able to go over to SteamPeak, there are a few proposals in here that you can vote for, and 10% of the reward pool is essentially going towards these proposals to help with development and that kind of stuff. So that is something to consider. But if you haven't looked at SteamPeak, it's actually pretty cool. So I'm just going to click on the home page right here, and this is just kind of an intro, and I'm not even logged in actually on this in this particular browser. But it's a different way to view the Steam blockchain. And I actually think it's got a pretty interesting interface. But anyway, so it's a pretty clean interface. They've done a really good job on development stuff, and they were first out with this proposal system to where you can vote. So check that out. Now let's talk about EOS prices let's say EOS prices and other prices of different cryptocurrencies compared to Bitcoin. Now, what I've noticed, and this has gone on for years, but I've been in the crypto space since 2013, but what you'll notice is that when a trend goes a certain way, people really rally behind that trend, and it's almost like they start to champion that as being the right idea. Like, oh, well, Bitcoin's, that's the main place to put your money now. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Are you just saying that because the last couple months it's had relative strength, and now it's a larger percentage of the overall crypto market? Its dominance has went up. Is that why you're saying that? And a lot of times I do see people say that. But as a contrarian investor, you have to be, obviously greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. So people kind of throwing money at Bitcoin right now, there's certain reasons why I feel like we could pull back a couple $1,000s, and let's say we pull back to 7,000 or 8,000. And then I think that some of that money is going to flow into some of these blue chip alts, so to speak. And if you look at the relative strength, compared to Bitcoin of some of these cryptocurrencies, like EOS, for instance, compared, and that the orange line is compared to Bitcoin, it has gotten really low. And if you go clear back here to where it's maybe sort of kind of been that low in comparison, you're talking 2 years ago, talking 2017. Now, what do we have since 2017? Well, the mainnet's obviously out. We've had different versions roll out. We have the Rex to help with resource-related stuff, and then people might point towards some of the issues, some of the governance issues with the block producers and stuff like that. Honestly, a lot of that's kind of been floating around the whole time. I think that Block One could quickly kind of like remedy that if kind of they step forward and do that and kind of solve some of these issues. I just don't, again, you could look at mining in China and stuff like that for Bitcoin, and act like that's a problem, or Ethereum's inability to scale, that's a problem, and all these things. Like, all these cryptocurrencies aren't perfect. Like, they all have some kind of issue, whether it's governance or centralization from a mining perspective, or maybe their inflation's too high, or their economic reward system maybe is being tweaked, or it's not working at the given time. So there's all this kind of stuff, and obviously right now a lot of people are getting exhausted. Are there days when I get burnt out? Yeah, there are, but I've been through this before. It's like, as these prices drop, and I've been surprised on some of them. Zcash, I'm surprised, it's down to $45 today. So there you go. There's another opportunity, and as time goes on, the opportunity will evaporate for some of these, or will be, that'll be kind of the last major opportunity, maybe for the next, several years, 2-3 years, to where you're not going to be able to get that low of a pricing and stuff like that again. But are there going to be like some of these projects that are going to slip on down the ranks of CoinMarketCap, and they're going to go into obscurity, and they're going to like lose liquidity and get delisted? Yeah, there are. But I think that if you're definitely in, whatever, the first page of CoinMarketCap is obviously in a whole different tier than page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's one thing to factor in. obviously having multiple exchanges that are strong and have a lot of liquidity. That's one thing, but the unpredictability of the crypto market is pretty insane. I mean, look at Doge. Once again, you've got it being listed on, obviously it just got recently listed on Binance, and it's listed on most exchanges. I saw Voyager, not that I'm recommending Voyager, but that I saw that it was going to be listed on it and stuff like that. So even though the economic model, you're like, oh, this is a joke, or there's not that much development going on with it. It's merge mine with Litecoin. There's not really anybody to talk to. If you go to the Dogecoin website, I'm not even sure who's really operating it. There's nobody to contact. You kind of have to go out on Reddit, which is always funny with the memes and stuff like that. But it has an inflation rate of 4.5%, which is higher than maybe some of this other stuff. It's higher than what Bitcoin is. It's higher than what Litecoin is. It's higher than what EOS is as far as an inflationary standpoint, but it's held up really well, surprisingly. So, it is very interesting. And even with some of this stuff that maybe has the best economic model, or in theory seems like it should work, we're not really sure. Every iteration of Steem, there's been a lot of changes to Steem. When Steem came out in 2016, it had 100% inflation. Now that obviously didn't work out, and then the inflation rate got changed to like 10%, and then it was going to reduce over time, and right now we're at 8.59%. Personally, I still think that's too high. I think that the power down cycle being 3 months, that there's been no real correlation that having this situation where you're going to lock up your funds and have this longer power down cycle of 3 months, essentially to get all your money back out, that has really helped any kind of price stability. Because if you look at the price of a lot of this stuff, it just really hasn't mitigated the severity of the pops and drops like on Steem. And in the time that I've been on Steem, it has dropped from, third place clear down to, 80th place, and even kind of lower. I think I saw it at 82nd or something. So what's going to happen with this decentralized autonomous organization, 10% of it going there? It's hard saying. I think that it, it could be very beneficial to the community. I've put a proposal out there. Hopefully, if you guys have dormant Steem accounts, or maybe if you're out there just, still plugging away, you can maybe go check that out if it's something that you guys think is worth voting on. Having like a small arcade game where people can earn more Steem and kind of battle against their friends and stuff like that. If you feel like that's a worthy cause, then definitely go check that out. But yeah, the pops and drops, the severity of it has not been mitigated by the fact that people have to, somewhat tie up their funds. So we'll see what happens, but it's in a long tail situation, obviously here, just like a lot of these currencies are. Again, IOTA's in the situation, even with zero inflation, and so is Nano. Zero inflation, so it's going along, and that's going to last a while, guys. That could last. You could have a slide uptrend or something maybe here in 2020, but then the thing is it doesn't take much to kind of set it off. Volumes get kind of low, and somebody moves in with a lot of funds and stuff goes hockey stick parabolic. So you always have to be ready and waiting, and ultimately, once again, crypto investors got what they asked for. You wanted lower prices. You wanted lower prices. So they're here. Again, it's not investment advice, but, personally, I think I'm going to end up with more crypto as far as like units of certain coins than I thought I was going to end up with. So, the crypto winter has been brutal. It's been kind of brutal on everybody. It's in my first rodeo, though, so I can keep kind of plugging away. But personally, when I look at Bitcoin, and again, not financial advice, and I wouldn't get caught with no Bitcoins. I don't think that that's good advice for somebody. But in general, on a macro scale, what you see with just markets in general, and let's zoom in here to this, is that when prices go up, obviously you're going to get these volume spikes down here, and then when prices are going down or leveling out, you're going to get the you're going to get less volume, obviously, in those periods. Then when prices are surging and there's more volume, obviously there's a correlation here, and we see the volumes are going down again. You see the volumes are going down again. So who knows, like, if this could dip out and go down, maybe go 7,000, 8,000, maybe 6,000. I mean, really, it's hard telling where it's going to go, but the trend certainly seems like that the tide's going out. And the question is, does the tide go into these other cryptos like EOS that have lost relative strength compared to Bitcoin? See, we're already the volumes have already went down, the price is already down, and let's say it starts to kind of go back in there and it levels out, and then it starts to perform better than Bitcoin. It's like the crypto market does this. It's like, Bitcoin goes up and the alts go down, and then Bitcoin goes down, it surges back in the alts, and it just kind of like it kind of like bobs like a bobber in the waves or something like that. So that's something to be mindful of. But again, it is scary thinking about, well, if I let's say allocate this one Bitcoin towards this and that, all is how is that going to play out for me, and when is it going to play out for me? Because obviously people are thinking about the halving coming in 2020. So, historically, the surge hasn't happened until the year after the halving for Bitcoin, the big surge. But, I would anticipate a run up, obviously, heading up to the surge, and then maybe kind of like what we saw with Litecoin. Oh, that's another thing I want to mention. I want to mention Litecoin because there's been a lot of things. Obviously, Chico Crypto has done some pieces on Litecoin and brought some things into question and stuff about the development and all that kind of stuff. As far as pricing on Litecoin, I never sold any of my Litecoins that I bought in December, January, all that kind of stuff. And I'm fine with that. I don't sit there and kick myself and say, oh, I should have, it got up to 138, I should have sold and stuff like that, because timing is so tough in the crypto market that a lot of times what happens if you try to sell out and then you mistime something and you get caught off balance or something in it, then you end up in a situation where you're never going to be able to reacquire that many coins, and you're not going to have as many coins going into the big surge. When the big surge happens, you're not going to be able to catch up to it. You can catch a train, you can catch a plane, you ain't catching a rocket. You already got to be strapped in. So anyway, guys, that's the video for today. A little bit all over the place, but check out my Steem proposal. Steem economics have changed. You can, make more money just voting for people if you're on auto voters, and also it's going to be beneficial to vote people in that 5 to 10 minute time frame versus the 15 to 30 minute time frame now with the new economics, it seems. So we'll see out over time. But anyway, check that out and follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then Twitter, Instagram, Steem it. See you guys later.